Okay, so this is what I do for my lesson plans in my special education class. I like to use more of an agenda. Since my kids have such different needs, it really helps keep me organized. And I've never had an issue with my administrators because special education lesson plans can be subjective sometimes, depending on who's doing them. Especially if you're a resource teacher, it gets really difficult when you have to navigate so many grades. So using this format just really helps me stay organized. I either do a pre um, written one that I like turn into at my administrators, or I print this out and make a bunch of copies and keep it in my independent work binders for my kids. That way I can just keep track of the lesson in case something went differently or I had to scaffold something more. And basically, what I do is I just insert a text box, I put the student, the grade. Sometimes I think the setting is important, whether it's resource, self contained setting, things like that. The subject, sometimes you can put two subjects if you're doing, 15 minutes ELA, 15 minutes math, whatever the child's minutes are, it just depends. And then the actual duration of the lesson, if we're just working on ELA comprehension and that, includes a read aloud and then comprehension questions, that might take a little bit longer than just a fluency check for math facts. And then I put the date, and you could always, if you're doing the same thing daily, you could put the date range. So whatever Monday's date is to Friday, it really just depends. But I always tie it back to the standard, and a lot of people get confused with this just because sometimes the standards are so broad, but that's a good thing. And really, you can tie everything back to a standard if you scaffold it correctly. So basically, I just have my objective, my accommodations, my modifications, the introduction to the lesson, guided practice, and then independent practice. So these can look different for so many different kids. I try to incorporate what I'm doing for check for understandings throughout the lesson. That doesn't necessarily have to be something at the end. I really like informal thumbs up, thumbs down. If there's an extended activity, like what are they going to do after, whether it's make Play-Doh letters or a craft or something like that, or that can even be whatever you assign them for homework or resources online for them to practice, like Zern or something. And then my data collection, I like to put this box here just because it keeps me organized with what they did on a certain day. Sometimes I don't have my formal data collection sheet right in front of me, especially if it's like observational stuff, identifying letters or something like that, where they're not doing a permanent work product. So I can just tally here. I can be as descriptive or as vague as I want. And then overall notes, you can put behavior, had a great day, need to review phonics, whatever notes you want to put for yourself. It just all stays in one place. And I think this is very informal, but also has a lot of depth and really shows and validates what you're doing with your kiddos. And again, I keep a overall one that I can modify or edit. And then here, I changed it up a little bit. I put the objectives and modifications in one box. I added a materials box because sometimes for my kiddos with significant needs, I need more manipulatives or adapted tools and writing materials or adapted paper, things like that. So these are also really good just for IEP goals and objectives to give your paras. That way you can fill this out and like hand that to them and they know everything that they need for a kid. You could also put this on or laminate it or put it in a sheet protector and fill it out daily. And again, this can be as vague and or descriptive as you want it to be. If I turn it into my administrators, I try to do like a template for all of my kids with pretty much everything that we're going to cover. And like I said, that usually suffices for everybody. Sometimes the formal lesson plans that we have to make for whole group just don't work for us in special education. So in my next slide, I just have one kind of pre-filled out of what it kind of looks like for just, a standard resource math lesson that I'm given on comparing 3-digit numbers, equal 3-digit numbers. So this would be for a kiddo that, you know, is a little bit below grade level. So we would start with equal. Again, modifications, they don't really need any modifications to the actual materials or anything like that, but if they receive accommodations in their IEP, I have my manipulatives, my visual cues, my prompting. So in our introduction, we're going to do a YouTube video on comparing numbers, and if I had the actual YouTube video, I would put the link right here. If I was turning it in, then we're going to talk about refer to the concept of same, model writing the equal sign. So it's a lot of modeling in the introduction, a lot of visual feedback, things like that. And then for guided practice, we would do either whiteboards or just different ways of presenting multiple exemplars using simple numbers and then building to more complex. So this is where I would show that, you know, we're going to do some behavior momentum. We're going to start with compare 2 and 2. Are they same? Are they equal? You know, and then reinforce or correct that, and then continue with the 2-digit numbers, and then model 3-digit numbers. So building up. You want to give them something to start with that they're going to be successful at so they understand the concept. And then what they would do for individual practice or independent practice. So present problems individually for the student to solve. That could be really informal on a whiteboard. That can be written on a piece of paper. That can be 5 problems. And that's also a check for understanding or an exit ticket. But for your actual check for understanding, you've already done that in your guided practice. So this just shows that you're doing informal checks, your extended activity, the computer program, or a homework assignment for fluency. Zern is really good. That's what we use a lot. So sometimes, you know, I just put Zern assignment, and then my data collection. So the first question, he got a plus. Even though I have a permanent work product, I like to keep this here just so I can look at my plus and my minuses. And then for my notes, I didn't really have anything, but ready to begin greater than comparisons this week. Just something vague, simple, whatever. And then what I like to do with my template, because if I have something that I know I'm going to use, I will screenshot this. I don't know if it's going to let me. There we go. And then I will insert a new slide. And I will format this picture as my actual background, or I'll just, you know, stretch it out and do like this. So that way I don't have to worry about the text boxes popping up over here, and I can just insert a text box and I'm ready to go. Student will compare numbers using greater than and less than symbols. Okay, so look, like I can move my text box around and it doesn't move in the back. Again, you can format this picture as your actual background. It doesn't really matter, but yeah, so with my practitioners and stuff, whenever I train ESS teachers, I really like to just instill the importance of an actual lesson agenda. And, you know, sometimes a lesson plan can be kind of scary. It can be very formal, and it can be too long term for what we're doing with our kiddos in a special education setting. And we just need some kind of documentation to keep us organized, to make sure that we're, you know, accountable for what we're doing with our kids, and we always have things to refer to. So, yep, let me know if you use this, how you use it, and it will be available on my Teachers Pay Teacher store.